Hey folks, Professor Finn here, and today we're going to be studying funeral service psychology and counseling. This is going to come from a textbook by the same exact name, Funeral Service Psychology and Counseling by Dr. Ralph Klicker, and we're going to cover all 16 chapters in the book. So if you are engaged in a course of funeral service education at an accredited program here in the United States and are using this textbook, this video lecture series will help reinforce what it is you are learning in that class. So let's go ahead and get started. So, funeral service psychology and counseling. Psychology is the study of human behavior. That's literally the definition. Funeral service psychology is the study of human behavior and how it relates to funeral service. It is a combination of several different types of psychology. And why do we need to know this? Well, the more we know about people in grief, the better we can serve them as licensed funeral professionals. The more we can understand the reactions of grieving people, the better we can assist them through the process. The truth is, we are a very death-defying society. We have people who are suffering losses later in life. They don't know how to cope. They don't know what's natural. So an added emphasis is on funeral professionals to fill that gap of knowledge. We work in an environment of grief. Knowing everything about it that we can possibly know helps us do our job effectively and meet the expectations of family. So, families know more these days. The internet is both a good and a bad thing, so we have to stay ahead of the curve. There are courses in Thanatology being taught in college. There are books and articles, and everyone has an opinion on TikTok. Grief support groups have emerged, and an educated consumer is our best customer, and an educated funeral director is the best help a grieving family can receive immediately after death. Now, since the 1970s, many advancements in grief studies have occurred. Early psychologists have now been largely replaced by grief-specific psychologists. Probably the most prominent of these psychologists today in the United States is Dr. Alan Wolfelt. Certainly one of, if not the most popular of the grief theorists. So what is our role in all of this? Well, the first is we need to be familiar with the purpose and techniques of counseling. Funeral directors play the role of confidant, counselor, advisor, and caregiver. Being able to communicate across a wide spectrum of personalities and having counseling skills to assist those personalities enhances your ability to be supportive, as well as enhances the perception of value that the family feels that they are getting from the funeral professional. Now, in the past, there was this conflicted view of whether or not we were licensed counselors or not. Well, it is well accepted that we are not a grief counselor and we should not be providing therapy. That being said, we do assume a role of counselor in a very limited fashion because it is inherent to our job. It bears mentioning that this textbook repeatedly refers to funeral director, and this chapter easily applies to all those working in a death care setting, such as embalmers and other licensed professionals. This is especially important in businesses that are highly compartmentalized with different licensees interacting with clients to accomplish specific tasks. It is not uncommon these days for especially very high-profile funeral homes to have on their staff a licensed mental health therapist, fully credentialed to work with families in doing this. But they have a very specific job within the workings of that funeral home. And the funeral director is still the line-level support for that family in putting together a meaningful service, etc. So Rather and Slater in 1975 have this really cool quote. Funeral directors do not choose as to whether or not they will be counselors. Their only choice is, will they be good or bad counselors? By the very nature of the caretaking and caregiving service inherent in the duties and responsibilities of a funeral director, the funeral director assumes the role of counselor not by choice, but by their advice, direction, and practice. Todd Van Beck, God rest his soul, very fine gentleman, in 2000 said, anyone who helps a person through a life crisis is really a counselor. Personal counseling is any deep understanding between persons that results in a changing of personality. The relief of suffering produces a change in personality, Clearly, then, the work of the funeral director falls within the boundaries of Dr. May's definition. Kanine and Walkins in 2002 said the funeral director is usually the first person to hear the death story, the first to observe acute grief in the family, and the first to hear the multiplicity of feelings the family is going through, and the first to offer support as the family starts the grief journey. The funeral director plays an instrumental role in the process of helping their families on the road to recover from their loss. So besides our professional duties, which is our legal duties, our administration duties, embalming, all the things that are the front end of the business, we have professional caregiving duties that provide sensitive, effective intervention during a time of emotional need. Funeral directors support families through the initial stages of grief, and this is expressed through a complex set of dynamics that is known as the helping process. So, a complex set of dynamics that help families through the initial stages of grief is called the helping process. It involves assisting clients to better understand themselves and assisting clients to cope with problems. Counselors have no special knowledge or wisdom about how clients ought to live their life. Counselors bring empathy and specific helping skills to guide clients in exploring their feelings and values, understanding their problems, making choices, and implementing changes in thoughts, their effects, and behaviors. Now, there is a matrix for helping clients, really complex, 3-stage model. And the one we're going to look at here is based off of Hill and O'Brien's 3-stage model and Wolfeld's phases in a helping relationship. So the 3 stages are exploration, insight, and action. So the exploration stage is known as the cry for help. It's where the client and funeral director enter in a helping relationship. The family notifies the funeral home of death and asks the funeral director to make arrangements. This is where we start building the helping relationship. It moves from basic to helping as you build rapport, and this cannot occur if you're not empathetic, warm, respectful, and genuine. You must project these traits by showing care, showing concern, and showing a willingness to assist the family however is necessary. Now, when I was teaching this in face-to-face classes, people would say, however is necessary, does that mean you break the law? The answer is no, that does not mean you break the law. It is showing the willingness to assist the family in anything that they need that is also basically within reason. During the insight stage, exploration and assistance in helping the family understand their alternatives. You gather information about the deceased, the family's needs, their wishes and feelings by actively listening and using skillful questioning. We then consolidate and we plan. We explain and clarify all options, then assist in planning a funeral that meets their needs. All too often, especially funeral directors that are a bit more old school, done this for a while, they may feel that they know exactly what the family needs and there's only one right way of doing it. And the issue is, it's not. It's their time, it's their money, it's their choice. We are here to give them all the options we possibly can, and then they need to make a decision as to what options they want. And the best way to find out exactly what they should be narrowing their focus on is by listening to what they have to say and then asking questions to clarify what it is they're looking for. So that, again, you can give them options that are relevant to them. The way I've explained this before. People always ask, what do you want to eat? No one ever knows. No one ever knows what anyone wants to eat. Whatever you want is fine by me, right? That changes markedly when you ask, hey, I'm thinking either burgers or pizza. Which one sounds good? Think about that for a second. I've limited their options. If they don't want that, man, those don't really sound good. Then what are you feeling? How about maybe chicken tenders, Chinese? What are you feeling? See what I did there? I'm probing. You know what? Yeah, chicken tenders. Now, we can even go like completely stupid here and go, okay, well, Cane's or Bojangles. But you get the idea. At this point, we've now narrowed that whatever we're going to offer, it needs to be within the 2 areas or the 1 area that we're looking for. And then we can have the argument, should it be chicken tenders at the grocery store, go down to Cane's, or go down to Bojangles or Popeyes or whoever. But we have limited what we're looking for, and now we're just explaining what are the options in that category. No different. And finally, the action stage. You implement the family's plan. You implement the family's plan. It is the and then you have the conclusion of the funeral process. You assist the family with a sense of closure, and you join with them in fellowship at the end of the funeral. Finally, this concludes with any level of aftercare that we are providing the family. Now, this is a dated book. This was from probably the mid-2000s. So there is some information in this that does not have the hindsight of nearly 20 years of time that have passed since the book was written. So I will be adding more to this when we get into some of those sections later on during this discussion. So everyone, welcome to the video series lecture, and we'll see you next video.